As promised, we're back again with another video for DARQ, unveiling the true story of what's going on in this ambiguous and puzzling game. Make sure to watch the first video if you haven't already, as I won't go over the game's story in this video. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator. If you have any game suggestions or theories, make sure to send them my way on Twitter or subreddit. Keep in mind that this video will have spoilers, and with that said, let's begin. After reading the comic book, which was released just a few months ago, the ambiguous and secret backstory of DARQ was finally unveiled. The comic book acts as a prequel, running all the way to the very end of the game when Lloyd enters the other side of the door, explaining what was going on. I personally thought the comic book was okay, but it simplified a lot of the ambiguous aspects of the game, which made it that much more captivating. But nonetheless, the story was okay, and definitely worth a read if you like the game. The cover of the book itself unveils a lot about what's going on, with Lloyd being in a fetal position inside a clock face, revealing that Lloyd was in the before life, or in other words, known as DARQ, a world between life and death where time and space doesn't work as they do in the real world, a place where lost souls reside after dying, awaiting their chance to get through the door to be reborn as a baby. That's basically the entire premise. DARQ, the title of the game, is where Lloyd is trapped, exploring to find a way out to be reborn. The comic, however, doesn't explain what the safe zone was when Lloyd kept sleeping and waking up from, and why Lloyd had to travel to different chapters, but that's something I will speculate on. The backstory is about a woman called Charlotte who visits a fortune teller or tarot card reader called Lilith, who shows remarkable talent in being able to communicate with the universe and foresee the fates of others. Charlotte is a wannabe opera singer, using her father's money to hire a voice coach, waiting to audition to show her talents, going to the psychic to get good news of what might await her after her approaching audition date. Despite all the money spent on her, Charlotte is a bad singer who seems to be deluded and too full of herself, being the definition of a spoiled brat. Unfortunately, she's also a selfish mother of a child called Lloyd, whom she doesn't care for and leaves with her father's nurse almost every day. Lloyd has facial deformities, whom Charlotte forces to wear a paper bag to cover his face, as she finds him to be embarrassing. This boy is the same exact boy wearing a paper bag who is found in the dark alongside Lloyd, running away and seemingly intending to reach the gate of the living world. This is a giveaway of what happens to Lloyd, Charlotte's boy, who wears a paper bag, ending up dead trying to find a way back to life. But why does the protagonist share the same name with Charlotte's son? Well, let's not ruin the twist and leave it for a little further into the video. Theodore, Charlotte's father, being sick and tired of her sense of entitlement and lack of responsibility for her son, tells her off that she should be more present and care for him, which makes them have an argument, leading to Theodore making the difficult choice to write an inheritance will, that after his death, all of his assets and wealth would be given to Charlotte's child when he turns 18. That being Lloyd, whom Theodore enjoys the company of and loves dearly. As Charlotte's audition date comes up, it's revealed she had an intimate relationship with her vocal coach Francis, who ends up impregnating Charlotte, something that Charlotte is not yet aware of. While auditioning, Charlotte leaves Lloyd outside not to be embarrassed by him when he gets attacked by some bullies who coincidentally kick him into the audition room, which makes Charlotte get embarrassed by him and tell him off instead of protecting him, doubling down on what a horrible mother she truly is. As Charlotte does a not surprising horrible job at singing and being rejected, she goes on to take Lloyd on a tower tour, which is a huge tourist attraction, a place Lloyd always wanted to go to. Being mentally not prepared to be a mother, Charlotte tries to leave him and abandon him, but suddenly has a change of heart and rushes back to the roof to seek her son. That's when she comes across the harrowing realization that Lloyd fell off leaning on a broken guardrail, dying instantly. This news leads to Theodore suffering a critical heart attack, dying on his bed, being disappointed of Charlotte for obvious reasons. That's when Charlotte visits Lilith for some good fortune news, learning that she's pregnant, which makes her try to reach Francis, who ghosts her, leaving her with a child. Visiting Lilith once again, she unveils what the world of DARQ truly is. As Charlotte is pregnant, a recently deceased member of her relatives or even an older one could be reborn as her new child. These souls enter the realm of DARQ in hopes of being reborn once more. But for some reason, other lost souls who have been stuck in DARQ for so long also are present, trying to be reborn, hence why they try to stop Lloyd in DARQ from reaching the doors to the living world. Therefore, all the monstrous enemies Lloyd faced were other souls trying to stop him so they can themselves enter the realm of the living. They look monstrous because it simply explained the souls look like monsters to each other for some reason. This also doesn't explain why the dead souls don't attack each other, but specifically target Lloyd. Also, why don't they move or run towards the door? Instead, they are in static places, roaming in their designated space. Most of all, the plague mask-wearing doctor is not explained at all, as if he never existed. And if he was a dead soul trying to be reborn, what was he doing with all the chemicals? It's then revealed that Lloyd, the bald protagonist of the game, is in fact Theodore, the recently deceased father of Charlotte, while her son is also in the DARQ, whom Theodore encounters on many different occasions but doesn't recognize. This confirms that the DLCs were the first 2 months of the pregnancy, with Theodore forming into a fetus, hence why the game character looks as such. In fact, Theodore also has a portrait of himself who looks very similar to Lloyd, the protagonist of the story. Theodore, unaware of who he is, he manages to break through the crypt and enter the safe zone, bypassing many of the dead souls who even looked like him. As months pass, with Charlotte going audition to maybe change her doomed fate, the 5th month into the pregnancy begins with Theodore's lawyer contacting Charlotte to inform her about his will, which leads to Charlotte become homeless, struggling to make ends meet. With one last hope, a final edition coming soon in Still Barrow, Charlotte informs Lilith about her situation, which makes her plot a very strange plan, accessing the world of DARQ in order to stop Theodore so she herself can be reborn as Charlotte's child to inherit everything. This depicts how, in fact, the blindfolded old lady who chased after Theodore in the game was no other than Lilith. This, however, just doesn't make much sense, as how would she remember who she is after death? She would probably forget about her past life. And who in their right mind would want to wait 18 years to inherit the wealth, seemingly living in poverty till then, as Charlotte didn't do too well for herself, ending up homeless. Who even knows, maybe Charlotte would abandon her child after birth due to financial difficulties, which would make Lilith not inherit a penny. But hey, if the multiple plot holes didn't exist, the story wouldn't be created at all. Anyway, moving on, Charlotte magically does a fantastic job auditioning in Still Barrow, getting the main role after firing her pianist, Frances, who abandoned her after impregnating her. And simply just like that, Charlotte turns her life around, making decent money, because who doesn't like a sudden and unbelievable character arc development? 7th month into the pregnancy, Lilith does the most ridiculous thing, using the power of her tarot cards to derail Charlotte's train. Moving on, Charlotte, surviving the train crash, realizes that her train must have been derailed because of Lilith. Because at this point, why not? Which makes her kick in her door, finding her performing the ritual traveling to the DARQ. Reading her notebook, she confirms what her plans are, which makes her snap her out of sleep, stopping her from destroying Theodore. This is of course the point when Lilith infiltrates the safe house and tries to grab Theodore when he's sleeping. But according to the comic, Theodore was never taken and Charlotte saved him. This again doesn't explain why Theodore didn't go back to the safe house after chapter 6 and instead went directly to chapter 7. After a physical altercation with Lilith, both her and Charlotte pass out, waking up in a hospital. Charlotte soon awakens and rushes to her room to confront her when Lilith uses the needle in her arm in order to fully transfer into DARQ in order to stop Theodore and walk through the doors herself. Coincidentally, Charlotte goes into labor, which coincides with Theodore being in chapter 7, running on the bridge, escaping all the hostile souls, especially Lilith. Meanwhile, Theodore, being close to the gate, sees Lloyd with his paper bag mask on, who shouts to him, calling out to him when Theodore recognizes him. In an anticlimactic confrontation, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever, Theodore shouts out to Lloyd, urging him to speak, as he'd rather to stay in DARQ for Lloyd to be reborn. but Lloyd doesn't make any sound, for some reason letting the grandpa be reborn as Charlotte's child, while in fact being her father, with Theodore going through the doors anyway, as he claims that he cannot see. What? How could Theodore not see while he was solving all the puzzles in the game? Even at some point solving a specific puzzle in the train when Lilith wanted to catch him. She specifically said that he needed to rely on sound to solve it rather than his vision. I understand they tried to relate his blindness to his real-life condition, but it makes no sense at all that his astral body who is being formed is unable to see, especially solving so many puzzles. And why does Theodore deserve more than little Lloyd to be reborn? While in fact Lloyd died very early and young, not living his life to the fullest when Theodore lived till a very old age. And it's downright weird being reborn as your daughter's son. Like, bruh. Anyway, Theodore is reborn as Charlotte's son, being actually a blind child as well, while Lloyd stays behind in DARQ, seemingly being stuck there forever to become a lost soul, doomed to suffer for eternity just like the other dead souls, while his grandpa is her mother's new child. And just to add insult to the injury, Charlotte names the newborn Theodore Lloyd, just completely replacing him as if he never existed. If you were asking why the protagonist was called Lloyd in the game, it's apparently because Charlotte names him Lloyd after he's reborn, and maybe just to confuse the players for no good reason at all, as why would Theodore be named Lloyd while in the dark before being named? He's not reborn yet to be called Lloyd. Either way, I thought the comic was decent or just okay, adding an actual story to the game, but a story with many plot holes and one that doesn't seem to actually belong to the game story, acting more like a spin-off, but I still appreciate having it than not. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below and what you thought of the comic story. Was it good or was it bad? Anyway, it's been your host Dar. Thank you folks for being here. Until the next video, have a fantastic day.